Every single year, the streaming wars wage on, where each service desperately tries to get as many eyeballs on their service as they can. And it seems like every year, things only get more and more competitive, where the originals can no longer coast on being established anymore. There's always some new service emerging with something fresh and new to offer. So who's the best? Who's the worst? Today we're going to rank the top streaming services from the worst to the best. As we go into this, I'm ranking the services on 5 criteria. First off, their original content, movies, TV shows. Second, the back catalog or archive of movies and TV shows that they offer. Third, the unique value that they have. So live sporting events, live TV, other perks. Fourth, ease of use, the interface. Fifth, how often do I use their streaming service? As we go into this, I have 3 kids and I'm not really a sports person. So family-friendly streaming services that have a lot to offer for my whole family, I'm going to be very favorable towards them. And likewise, having a bunch of sporting events won't be a hook for me to be drawn to a specific streaming service. So I will acknowledge when they offer some of those things, but those won't necessarily enhance the experience that much for me. Also, as we go into this, I'm not going to talk about cost all that much because in my mind, they're all relatively in the same ballpark. Most of them have some ad-supported tier. It's right around the $10 mark, and then they have the premium ad-free 4K version of it that's in the $20 range. So besides when they break from that, I'm not going to bring up cost all that much. And when I say top streaming services, I'm leaving out things like Crunchyroll and Shudder and other kind of niche services because those ones aren't as holistic versus something like Crunchyroll that's anime or Shudder, it's horror that cater to a specific audience. But these other ones are kind of more holistic in their approach to delivering value to audiences. With all of that said, let's get started. In last place is Peacock, and I was actually pretty surprised that I ended up putting this one in last because when I just sit down and write down everything that this one has to offer, it does have a good bit of value, and I'll talk about some of the specifics of that in just a moment. But at the end of the day, I just don't use it very much. And if the purpose of a streaming service is to get my eyeballs on their streaming service to excite me about the value that they deliver, Peacock, of the 9 services I picked for this list, does that the least. Every single other streaming service has done more to attract me to their service in the last year. So Peacock is essentially Universal's streaming service as well as NBC's streaming service. So you get a bunch of the Universal film library as well as a bunch of NBC programming. So there's a lot of premium content on there. If you go back just kind of a year and a half, they dropped Five Nights at Freddy's day and date release. The day that the movie dropped in theaters, they had it on their streaming service. If you're a fan of The Office, like me and my wife, they have all of that show. In fact, they pulled it off of Netflix several years back and dropped it on Peacock, and they do the extended episodes on there, series Yellowstone on there, as an exclusive. They have the TV show Ted that I thought was quite good. They deliver sports. They've got WWE, Hallmark, Telemundo, Focus, Premier League, MSNBC. They actually do deliver a bunch of different stuff on there that could be very cool for the right person. But I'm not into professional wrestling. I don't watch Hallmark movies. I'm not watching Telemundo. I don't watch, as I said, I don't watch sports much, so Premier League doesn't attract me at all. So all of the specific things they offer that are unique value just do nothing to attract me to their service. Kind of beyond that, I've kind of found their interface to be a little bit slow. So much of the way that I'll use streaming services is I just want to hop on there and browse around and just find something I want to click on to watch as I go to bed. And when there's that little lag, I'm probably just going to go to a different streaming service that doesn't have that minor lag when just trying to browse to find something. And their exclusives have always been pretty mediocre. And so for me, Peacock, despite actually offering a fair amount of value. I could see why someone else would really like it. It just doesn't do much of anything to attract me to it on a regular basis. Today's video is brought to you by Factor. Make this your best season yet with nutritious 2-minute meals from Factor. Eating well has never been this easy. Just heat up and enjoy, giving you more time to do what you want. It's the busy season for me. I'm traveling quite a bit. My kids have so many activities going on, and Factor makes it easier to just go out and live my life and not spend all my time in the kitchen cooking and cleaning. Factor meals arrive fresh and ready to eat. Perfect for any active lifestyle. Just got back from the gym. We've got queso fundido and ground beef and cauliflower rice, all with over 40 grams of protein. With 45 weekly menu options, you can pick gourmet meals that fit your goals. Choose from Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, and more. I usually go Protein Plus or Keto because I'm a high protein, low carb kind of guy. Factor powers your day with satisfying breakfasts, on-the-go lunches, premium dinners, and guilt-free snacks and desserts. I like to kick off my day with their protein shakes, once again, because I'm a high protein kind of guy. Get started at factormeals.com/Sean Chandler 50 off and use code Sean Chandler 50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code Sean Chandler 50 off at factormeals.com/Sean Chandler 50 off for 50% off plus free shipping. Number 8, Hulu. This was one of the original streaming services, and back in the day, over 10 years ago, it delivered a very specific value. It had a clear brand identity that it offered network television the day after on a streaming service. That's why I originally signed up for Hulu almost 15 years ago. But with each passing year, it feels like it becomes more and more obsolete. And in particular, as it's integrated into Disney Plus, it feels like it's probably going to disappear in the near future and all of its content will just merge into Disney Plus. So what is good about Hulu? Well, it does have some really positive, exclusive original content. Only Murders in the Building, not one that I watch, but my wife is really into it. The Bear, and as well as Shogun, which is an FX series, but it's FX with Hulu, so it kind of turned into this Hulu exclusive on there. So it does have some premium exclusives on it. You've got sports, you've got anime on there, and their TV archive of older television shows. That's, for me, kind of what bumped it up over Peacock, is that even in the last 3 months, I've been rewatching a lot of television from 20 years back, and it's all Hulu content. And it's always integrated in with other services, and so it kind of became a place that via its integration technology, it was the one that I used the most to get like stars and some things like that in the past. But to just kind of dive into the negatives, and it just feels like it's lost its brand identity, where originally the thing that made it cool was that you could get network television the next day. But as most of the main networks launched their own streaming service, that content was pulled from Hulu. So the thing that made Hulu valuable to me when I originally signed up for it kind of disappeared. Also, I don't watch any network television anymore because network television isn't particularly good anymore. So it just kind of becomes this other thing out there that has stuff on it, but it doesn't have a unique thing that it offers. And so it just feels like one that's kind of slowly disappearing and almost certainly will merge into Disney Plus in the not too distant future. Next up, Paramount Plus. Now, when this service launched in its original form, CBS All Access, it was easily the worst streaming service. And then it did the major overhaul into Paramount Plus, and it did improve, but it was still the weakest of the streaming services. And over the last several years, it has dramatically and significantly improved. I would say it plateaued this last year where it didn't keep getting better. For me, it's a little bit it's kind of a better version of the Peacock situation where it offers a bunch of value. There's all this stuff on there where I could see why it could be awesome for a different person that's not me. It's a little bit better than Peacock. It has more exclusives and more things that I browse on there, but it's not one that I use enough or get excited about enough to have it higher up on the list. So on the positives, their exclusives have gotten so much better over the last several years. Originally, all they really had was their Star Trek. Then they've got like Tulsa King, the Sylvester Stallone show. Landman got a lot of people talking. Mobland. So they have a bunch of these kind of different things that are star-driven, accessible, interesting shows. Maybe too many of them because I can't catch up on all of them. And they have the Paramount archive of movies, of course. And then just with brands that they're attached to, they've got CBS, Showtime, Nickelodeon, MTV, BET, Comedy Central, Smithsonian. They've got live TV. They've got sports. So they've got a bunch of stuff to offer on there. A big, gigantic thing. They are, of the kind of all-purpose ones, I think they're the cheapest of the all-purpose streaming services that have a big past archive, and they keep adding value. Where some of the other bigger ones, they're already charging a lot and they're delivering less. But I think their interface has just always been slow. For whatever reason, whatever it was built on, it's always been the clunkiest to me. And that's always been my experience with CBS All Access and Paramount Plus. It's clunky and it loads slow. And while they do have a good number of things I go there to watch, I don't browse their content library. So it offers a big, robust library of archive content that's for someone besides me. Thus, I can't have this terribly high on my list. Then we have Apple TV Plus. This is always a tricky one to place because their strategy is different from virtually every other streaming service on this list. They don't have this big, robust backlog archive of movies and TV shows, but they put all of their resources into delivering top tier premium exclusives, recruiting top actors, directors, writers to create the best exclusive content. In a lot of years, I think I've had this one in next to last, simply because I don't go to it as much because they don't have that archive to browse. I feel like over this last year, they've reached kind of that tipping point where they just have so many exclusives that get people talking, that they are known for quality originals. And because of that, they actually have a brand identity. I put up some polls over the last few days to kind of get your input on streaming services. One of them was on the most underrated streaming service, and with 35% of the vote, you said that Apple TV Plus was the most underrated streaming service. And I think it makes sense because it's not the one that gets all the big chatter. It's not the one with the biggest, flashiest franchises and stuff like that. It's kind of the underdog of streaming service. This just kind of keeps growing its reputation, that it feels like people are still discovering it. And the people that discover it are like, finally, here's a streaming service that consistently puts out quality content, quality originals. Like right now, Severance season 2 just ended, and I can't go anywhere without someone being like, oh, have you been watching Severance? And then they're shocked that like I haven't watched it. Like it's like at the top of my must-watch list. I've been doing a number of interviews with directors, and every single one of them, they bring up this TV show that just started on Apple TV Plus called The Studio. And that's what Apple TV Plus has been able to do, is create these conversation-starting shows that people actually are excited about. I can't put it too much higher up on the list because they don't have that archive, so I just don't spend as much time on there. But that's counterbalanced by they are the cheapest of the streamers because you're not paying for them to license out all of these archives. You're paying under $10 per month to get premium exclusives. They've got a brand. They've become a go-to destination for something, but they don't have the archive, so I don't use it as much. So it's right here in the middle. In fifth place, Tubi. As I said at the beginning of this, I'm not primarily evaluating these streaming services based off of cost, with a few exceptions. Tubi being one of those exceptions, where Tubi is free. For years, I kind of ignored Tubi because it's like, what's going to be on the free one? What's even the point? And then I checked it out. I expected very little, and I felt like I got quite a bit. As a free streaming service, it's not trying to compete at the top tier. It's trying to deliver a great free option, and it does a fantastic job at that. So, what are the positives here? Of course, it's free. So you don't have to sign up and pay for something new. This is something that can complement whatever else you have. The thing to me is that it has this very robust archive of past movies and TV shows that updates every single month, that new things are in there. And it's the one out of all of these that reminds me the most of walking down the aisles of Blockbuster. It just has that feeling of walking around and finding things. And there's so many different movies they have in there that are just these old covers of things that I was interested in back in the day that finally I've been able to watch because it's free on Tubi. The interface and the algorithm seem designed to kind of surface up these forgotten little niche films that I might be interested in. And I love that. It's not just trying to put the most popular thing and the biggest blockbuster and the newest in front of everyone. It's actually looking for the quirky little things. And I think it does a great job at that. And that's why it reminds me of Blockbuster. Probably the biggest thing going for Tubi to me is that late at night when I'm going to bed and I just want to browse to find something to throw up on the television as I go to bed, Tubi is one of the first places I go. In my poll discussing the most underrated streaming services, Tubi was second, just a little bit behind Apple TV Plus. Thinks it makes a lot of sense because it's the free streaming service. It's the one that's easy to kind of ignore or treat as just this thing over there. But people that use it love it. What's the negatives on here? It is ad-based, so you have to have ads. I would pay whatever I would need to pay to get rid of ads because I don't want ads on anything. There's zero quality originals, so if you're showing up for that, that's just not what they deliver. They have some originals, but you don't have any big expensive premiums. That's not what they are. And they have big movies on there, but you're not getting any new big movies 6 months later, anything like that, the way you will on pretty much all of these other services. And there's a lot of stuff on there, and if you're my age, it's awesome. If you're younger, it might not have as much to deliver if you need something a little bit fresher and newer. In fourth, Disney Plus. One of the trickier services to rank on this list because it has such high highs, low lows, and the Disney brand stands for things which I'm not quite sure that Disney Plus stands for. And as you've gone over the last 5.5 years with Disney Plus, they have these premium top brands that they were making exclusives for on their streaming service, but it felt like they went for quantity over quality. And in their efforts to have as robust of a streaming service as possible, they started to deliver things that aren't exactly family-friendly content, in which case Disney as a brand is quality family entertainment, and Disney Plus, the quality part is in question, as well as the family part is in question because it's not just that. So to kind of unpack that a little bit, they have a massive archive of premium content where you have Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, plus all of these Fox brands. And so they have all of this really big, popular stuff on there. And my family's a Bluey family, like most families with kids are. So having Bluey on there is a massive thing for my household that keeps my kids entertained with something that does not fully rot their brain. Of course, they're putting exclusives for all their big, gigantic brands, and some of them are quite good in recent history, X-Men 97, Skeleton Crew, Daredevil. But at $27 for the premium where you get the Hulu, Disney Plus, integrated, all that stuff kind of thrown in there. It's $27. So it's the most expensive to get that full, robust experience. They have probably the most disappointing exclusives and originals. And in the brander context of these brands, the Disney Plus content hurt the brands. And so you identify Disney Plus with harming Star Wars and Marvel. It puts like this weird stench on it in this weird sense. They are known for removing content. They pulled their own exclusives that they produced. Then there's just like this general idea of losing their brand identity. Like as a parent, it's very weird to me that I'll open up Disney Plus. The thing they might be promoting might be a Saw movie. It could be Poor Things. An actual thing that came up in the last week, the logo pops up and it says Dying for Sex. I'm going to go watch like Alice in Wonderland. This literally happened. I'm going to go watch Alice in Wonderland or The Simpsons with my family, and something pops up called Dying for Sex. 2 of my kids are old enough that they're like, what's this on Disney? What's this show? And it became an actual conversation in my living room of like, oh, what is this? And that does mean something to me. Disney as a brand meant family quality entertainment. And the quality of Disney Plus is very uneven. And if I open it up and it's Dying for Sex, Saw X, Poor Things, this is not family entertainment. And so their brand is losing its identity because of the way they're running their streaming service. And instead of just leaning into the thing that they're great at and they've been known for, they're trying to be this omni product. And I don't think that's for the best for them. And so it's Disney Plus is this odd one that it has so much value, but it also has an identity crisis and disappoints the most. In third place, Netflix, the original streaming service, the one to beat for over a decade, I feel has grown a little bit stale over the last few years. Absolutely, there's a lot of junk in there, but there's also a lot of good stuff too. So I put up a poll for the most overrated streaming service, and by far, Netflix was voted as the most overrated streaming service. And I think that makes a lot of sense. It's the original. It's the most popular. It's the one that people talked about for so long. And it just has disappointed a lot recently. And you also got to counterbalance this. In my poll for what is the best streaming service, Netflix came in second, not far behind the number 1 choice. So there's still a lot on there that people are like, what are you talking about? There's such a robust archive of past films. There's so many exclusives. There's so much on there. What are you talking about? Netflix, it's still a great all-around streaming service. Right off the bat, as the original streaming service and the original streaming service that was putting out originals, by now, their just archive of original movies and TV shows is in and of itself a very large, robust, exclusive archive of content that they have built for themselves. But in addition to that, they've always licensed out all of these other brands. And so, in particular, like right now, they've got a deal with Sony. So Sony releases go to Netflix first. Now, people talk about how Netflix movies are garbage, and that there's truth to that there's a lot of very mediocre Netflix movies. There's also David Fincher originals. There's also Martin Scorsese originals. There's Oscar-nominated originals. There's just a lot of junk in there that the noise distracts from finding the great exclusives. But, I mean, you still have Stranger Things coming out this year. You had Cobra Kai just finish its run. They have some of these big exclusive shows. There's a lot of cool stuff on there, and they're expanding, where they cut a deal this last year where they've added WWE, and then they did stuff like the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul live event last year. We'll have more to say on that in just a second, but at the end of the day, they got tens of millions of people to tune into a boxing match on their streaming service in the last year. That's huge. On the negatives, though, the big thing that works against Netflix is that they were the original, and so they used to be able to license from everyone. And then every one of these streaming services that have launched, they pull their content out of Netflix to put it on their own streaming service. So it just feels like every year the the archive content is more scattershot and less cool. Right now, if you go on there, there's a bunch of big franchises, big movies, some of them fairly recent, great archive. Like, there's all this big stuff on there, but it feels flat. Like they're so optimized to appeal to everyone that they're not exciting anyone. It's like very vanilla archive of content stuff. I feel like I'm more excited by the small things I find on Tubi. It's obscure niche stuff, but it's for me. And talking about that Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight, that was a bandwidth disaster. I mean, I tried to watch it live and I couldn't, because you couldn't watch it live because they just were not prepared for how many people were going to show up. And so they shot themselves. And their algorithm just feels kind of bizarro at times. Like their top 10 almost always has something insane in there. Like Sniper 7 was in there at one point in time. You're like, Sniper 7? Like, who's watching Sniper 7? Who's seen Sniper 6? Who even knew that there were 7 Sniper movies? There's actually like 10 of them now, but Sniper 7, for some reason, popped up into the top 10 not too long ago. And like, just even the way they kind of surface things, it's that vanilla algorithm. So I feel like Netflix, because they're just so focused on biggest everything, and we'll do Electric State, that's big stars and big directors, but it's just generic stuff. And that's what their flavors kind of turned into. Nothing that excites a specific demographic, not known for one specific thing, but something for everybody in the generic sense. Our runner-up, Amazon Prime. And where I just criticized Netflix for being kind of generic, vanilla streaming service for everybody, that everybody has something on there, but nobody loves it. I feel like Amazon Prime does a better job of being like, we are doing this for this group of people. And in particular, they make a lot of great stuff and get a lot of great movies for dads. If you look at a bunch of their exclusives and who they play to, they play to grown men really well. And as a grown man and as a dad, that means I just frequently check out their streaming service for their exclusives and for just their content of stuff that tends to be a lot of things that I'm interested in. And I think brand identity and have something that you pop for, that a specific group of people get excited for your service, is so important. So they do have archived content, but more and more they put out their regular stuff. And it seems like they know who they're going for. You look at like Reachers, The Boys, Terminal List, they're dad shows. They're the ones that play to dads that we love. They've got live sports on there. They integrate with other services. So even if they don't have something, I can sign up to like one of these bonus deals that it's on a streaming service I'm already using. So it's all right there. I don't have to download another app and get another login. It's all right there in one. Like Tubi, Amazon Prime has that browsing blockbuster feel for me of like, I feel like I'm walking the aisles and finding all these little movies that I missed from back in the day, or discovering a movie that I've wanted to watch forever. Once again, having good brand identity, like they know who is subscribing and they're delivering things that get that group of people excited. And then it's priced as part of a broader strategy to where like I've just signed up for Amazon Prime because I buy a bunch of stuff on Amazon Prime. And then a streaming service is attached to that. Some of the negatives on there, their default menu is bad, to where you have to like click through to get to what I actually want to use to browse. When I go to Amazon Prime, just being their streaming service, it is like the rental store as well as all of the other add-ons you can get merged together in a way that's just clunky and frustrating. As someone with kids, my 5-year-old or 6-year-old now, Karis, has in the past bought TV shows because she was watching the one that was free, and then she clicked over to the one that wasn't free and just kept clicking until all of a sudden we have to get a refund on this thing. At times, it feels like their algorithm doesn't do the best job of surfacing all the cool stuff that's hidden in there. Like, I like the ones that surface the hidden gems, don't just keep popping up the same recommendations. And so I wish their algorithm is a little bit better for surfacing stuff. Just for me, it feels like one of the ones better targeted at me, delivering exclusives that are for me, and that experience of walking through Blockbuster that I love. And very few things that frustrate me. But coming in at number 1 is Max, formerly known as HBO Max. And my relationship with Max has been this kind of back and forth complicated relationship because the leadership at Warner Brothers Discovery is kind of insane. And they've made a series of choices that feel like a roller coaster ride of awesome value, frustrating choices. And at the end of the day, if you kind of sort that all out, work through all the nonsense and go, how often do I use it? How many exclusives are really cool on there? How much is it tailored to what I'm actually into? This, I think, edges out the other ones. Put up a poll yesterday asking what the best streaming service was, and you picked Max. There were 10,000 votes counted, and Max received 4,000 of those votes for 42% of the total vote. Easily your pick for the best streaming service. And I also put up another poll asking for the most overrated streaming service. And while you highly rated Max, you also said only 6% said it was overrated. So it's like one of those ones that people are like, no, it's the real deal. Like this one actually offers value that when I go there, I find stuff that I want. It's not glaze. It's not hype. It actually delivers. They're pulling in HBO, WB, DC, Studio Ghibli, Turner Classic Movies. That's like a bunch of top-notch archives to have access to. Adding to that, they have live sporting events. They have a news section. It's still in beta, but they have it. They have early streaming of like first release for both Warner Brothers and Fox movies, which is kind of funny because Disney's owned Fox for 6 years now, but because of a deal made years and years and years before the Disney acquisition, HBO gets first rights to Fox movies for so long, and the HBO originals are just too strong of exclusives. Sometimes I've like in past years, maybe I've discredited the fact that Max doesn't pull its weight enough, but HBO is pulling enough weight. It's such a strong brand that they have these things that are just like premium shows that are must-watch television. So just consistently having a show that everybody is talking about. Some negatives on here, I touched on this just a little bit, but Max delivers less and less every year. It's more and more reliant on just HBO as they started licensing some of their movies out to other places. And so the exclusivity of it kind of got lost. But this past year, I've just gone to Max for a bunch of this stuff still. So it kind of balanced that out. There's just a bad taste in your mouth related to some of the Warner Discovery choices where they were going to do Batgirl, Scoob 2, a Looney Tunes movie, and stuff like that they shelved. It just puts a bad taste in your mouth. Like you don't want to support them. And I think they've updated their interface in some ways that was more frustrating than helpful, where it's like to get to search, it's like go to the left and go up. And I don't want this convoluted mess of a thing. Like sometimes they're trying to fix something that's not broken with interfaces. But at the end of the day, like which one am I opening up the most that consistently has cool shows that are the must-watch thing that people are talking about, that has a great archive of stuff that's my sort of stuff? It's Max. So Max comes in at number 1. So that's my ranking. Be sure to join me down below in the comments section. What are your picks for the best and worst streaming services? Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV.